Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles. I had gone to sleep quickly, and the next thing I knew, Bobby was waking me from my shift. She said, "I'll let you sleep 3 hours." I don't want to wake Serena. This is the first real trauma she's been through. She needs her rest to be of any use tomorrow. I hope you don't mind. Wake us both at 5 o'clock. I have it dark in the front room so I can have the drapes open. Keep watch on the guys out there in the backyard. The back is vulnerable if someone really wanted to get in. The next 3 hours were a bit of a strain since I kept imagining hearing things, but I kept watch out both the front and back along with the video monitors. I woke both girls at 5 o'clock. They got up, showered, and dressed for the office. I still didn't have anything but the jeans and shirt I was wearing. Before we left, I asked Serena if she had her weapon. She checked in her purse, took out the lightweight Glock, dropped the clip to make sure the magazine was full, pulled the slide back to check to see if a round was chambered, and put the gun back in her purse. I looked at Bobby and she rolled her eyes. I told her to wait a second. I went into her closet, pulled another Glock, 3 magazines, and a box of shells. I also pulled one of the new MP5s, 2 additional 30-round magazines, and a canister of 100 rounds. When I came back into the hallway, Bobby asked, "A little overkill, don't you think?" I grunted and added, "Think about the last few days, then say that again." We went out to the garage, set all of the alarms, and got into the car with me riding in the back seat and raised the door. Bobby used her radio to check with the 2 marshals in the car at the curb. They said all clear and that our chase vehicle was around the corner. I was busily loading the magazines for the Glock. I seated a clip, put a round in the chamber, checked the safety, and proceeded to load the MP5 magazines. I had just finished loading the first magazine and seating it in the MP5. When we passed what was supposed to be our chase vehicle, it pulled out after us. I looked up a second and did a double take. Bobby caught my double check and asked, "What's up?" There's no marshal tag on the front of the car following us. Called the chase car and asked them where they are. There was no immediate answer. Then we got an answer. We are just leaving the 7-Eleven at the entrance to the subdivision. Bobby said, "Oh shit." I quickly told Bobby, "Call the house car and tell them that we will be moving slow and to come up on us quick. Tell the chase car to set up a roadblock so we can pinch them in." Bobby was giving the directions I asked her to give while I was stuffing rounds in the other 2 magazines for the MP5. The people in the car following us couldn't see me watching them, as we were in a vehicle with absolutely black one-way windows. It was obvious they didn't have our radio frequency since they kept right behind us. Just as we rounded a bend in the road, we saw our guys parked across the road, standing on the other side of their car. The guys from the house were rapidly coming up behind the car following us. All of a sudden, the car following us jammed on their brakes. Our guys following them saw the maneuver in time to stop and back up. I yelled for Bobby to stop and back up a little, to give the car behind us less room to turn either direction. I checked our guys blocking the road and they were climbing back in their car to come to us. Bobby backed to within about 30 feet of the car behind us and stopped. I was thinking it would be a standoff, but I wasn't up for a long wait. I didn't get breakfast and I wanted to get downtown. I lowered the window and pointed the Glock out the window at the windshield of the other car. "Bobby, tell our guys behind them to use their bullhorn to tell them to get out with their hands up or face the consequences. Tell them to count to 5 and tell our guys to get down." She used the radio to tell the men what I wanted. The guys radioed back, "What consequences?" "We don't have any consequences." Bobby Keeter said, "I think our guy is finished with playing." "Just do it." The guy with the bullhorn said, "I'm going to count to 5. If you're not out of the car by 5, you're not going to enjoy what happens. 1, 2, 3. Before he said 4, all 4 doors opened and 4 guys got out with their hands up, but all 4 were still holding weapons. The deputy with the bullhorn yelled, "Drop your weapons and lie on the ground. Do it now. Drop your weapons." One of the guys acted like he was going to put his piece down and get on the ground, but instead he leveled the gun at the car behind them, even though he couldn't see anyone. I began firing and knocked the guy down, but could tell he wore armor. Another guy decided to fight, and I shot him and hit him in the neck. The first guy was trying to get up when one of the marshals behind us put a round in his head. The other 2 guys just stood there with their eyes closed, but their guns were now on the ground. The bullhorn sounded, moved to the curb, and lay on the ground, face down. "Do not move." As the guy on one side began moving, he looked into the car twice before moving. Quick, radio our guys. Tell them there is at least one more guy in the car. The guys were starting to move when they heard Bobby and stopped. Tell them to use the bullhorn. If they don't clear the car, we will destroy it from here. Get out of the car. We will fill that thing with so much metal, you won't know what model it is. Now, get out now. I grabbed the MP5 as I opened the door, switching it off safe and onto burst mode, ready to fire through the windows if needed. Suddenly, a guy jumped out from each side of the car, rolling and opening fire with full auto weapons at the vehicle behind them. Those compact machine pistols are wild and inaccurate spray and pray. I returned fire, aiming controlled bursts. One of them went down fast. The other didn't last much longer, taken out by our guys up front. It ended almost as quickly as it began. I jumped out, MP5 still ready, scanning the area and making sure the shooters were down. I moved to the car behind us to clear it for shotguns and a couple of scoped hunting rifles inside. They hadn't come to play. I walked over to the two guys lying on the ground, still alive, but barely moving. I leveled the MP5 at one of them and said coldly, "You know, I've always wondered what it sounds like when a skull cracks from a close-range hit." Then I let out a cold laugh. The guy looked like he might have lost it. I stayed nearby until both were cuffed and their weapons secured. Each of them had ankle holsters and a backup pistol at their waist. I looked down at them and said, "Too bad you didn't get to those." Could have been interesting. Then I added, "I think I'm getting used to this." One of the other marshals leaned in and told them, "This kid's taken out over a dozen of your crew in the last 2 days. He's not bluffing." Sirens started getting closer. I made my way back to the expedition. Bobby was already on the radio calling for a cleanup crew and crime scene techs. She told them we'd need the tow truck again. As I got in, Serena asked, "Are you all right?" "You're acting angry. I'm hungry." "Damn it. And these a-holes are causing me to miss breakfast. See if we can leave here and get to the office. I don't think anybody is going to get between me and something to eat." As a matter of fact, how about an Egg McMuffin or one of those croissants from Burger King? Serena got out and talked to the 2 sets of deputy marshals that were holding off the county guys. She came back and said, "They said to take off, but to remember to write up the incident report, since while Bill Hickok here is doing most of the damage." Bobby chuckled and asked, "Are you serious? Do you want something to eat? Do you think you can keep it down? Hey, radio those guys and tell them to let the media photograph and film everything and everyone. Don't cover the dead guys. Let them take the pictures as they are and to make sure they take pictures of inside the bad guy's car." Bobby did that and asked why. I answered her saying, let's begin to let some of these idiots know we're ready. These guys all have armor on, so they're professionals. It might increase the temperature a little, but I think we're ready. There may be a big payoff if I get gone, but it's going to be the toughest hit they ever make. After pausing a second to get another breath, I'm starved. And yes, I can keep it down. If I can eat an MRE while some sniper has me pinned down, I can eat a breakfast sandwich in a bulletproof fort. I busily reloaded my weapons in the back seat and sat back to watch the terrain. We stopped at a Burger King because it was first place we came to and did get a bunch of biscuits with sausage, egg, and cheese, along with some of those mini fried potatoes. We got some cinnamon rolls, a milk for each of us, and a cup of coffee each. When we were on the way to the office with something to eat, I had the feeling we were going to get to the office without any more trouble. We did. We parked in the garage in the open VIP spot. It was called that, but it was a secure spot that was open on all sides so no one could hide around it. I left the MP5 in the car but put the Glock in my waistband. I'd have to remember to pick up a belt clip for it. Since I didn't have a jacket, all I had was a t-shirt framing my shoulder rig. You could see the Glock sticking out of my waistband, so I must have looked pretty strange. I'm sure several people did a double take on the guy with a cane walking between an Amazon and a nice cell-looking lady into the federal building. We held up our badges and the 2 security people that were really Secret Service waved us through. We rode the elevator up to our floor. The 2 ladies with me greeted the receptionist and we went into the main office. Serena did what she's been doing for years. She sat at her desk, put her purse in a drawer, and turned on her PC. She pushed some of her stuff around, arranged her phone just right, and smiled, probably thinking to herself, "Ready?" Howard waved at us from his office. As Bobby and I walked toward Howard's office, the agents standing and sitting began applauding. It kept up all the way to Howard's office. Bobby and I waved, then ducked into the office to talk to Howard. The first thing he said was, "Christ, can't you guys just come to work like normal deputies? You've upset the media and a whole bunch of folks out in Carrollwood. They are bitching that we put a hazardous hiding place among good citizens." He chuckled and said, "The brass is still getting up having breakfast and should be here by 8:30 or 9. I told them, "You guys would probably be here early, but they are the chiefs, and we're expected to wait on them. Wait till they hear you had another incident on the way in. How many? And how many are able to talk?" Bobby said, 6 and 2. Howard looked at me and asked, "How many did you do?" 2, maybe 3. He looked at Bobby and she said, 2? Probably 3. He nodded and said, "You know from your schoolwork that if you have an exceptional high kill ratio, they're going to retire you. They don't go by military or Marine rules. They think it's unhealthy to be that accurate or that you could be involved in that many incidents. Can't be helped. If I'm canned, I can go back to work for the employment people where I may still have a job." Howard grimaced. "Forget those people. We'll put you on airplane detail. Boring as hell, but very safe. It pays well and the travel is great." He took a deep breath. "Go to your incident report real quick and bring it to me. You have to do them individually, you know. Now, get before we have these guys up our butts." As we were leaving, he said, "Oh yeah. We put your clothes back in the penthouse, Chad. We brought a set to the office for this morning. We've rented the entire floor over there. That's where we stash the brass. Bobby will be in the other bedroom in your penthouse, so plan on going for some clothes unless you want to go on a shopping spree, courtesy of Uncle Sam." We went out to Serena, who had 3 separate incident reports already printed out. It had 3 separate versions, and mine was close enough to be damn accurate. I thanked Serena profusely and signed it. She said she would wait a while and take them into Howard. Bobby said, "Follow me. I want to get some different firepower for you." We went into the supply closet where she twisted and turned a combination lock and pulled open a door to a large gun safe. It was jammed with every kind of handgun you can imagine. She pulled a box out and checked it and pulled out a box of shells. She had chosen a Glock 40 caliber. It's actually not that much bigger than a 9mm, but the 40 caliber round has more powder and more penetrating power. She asked for my badge ID. She scanned it and scanned the serial number from the box on the gun. She handed me the gun and asked me to read the serial number. I did, and it matched. She closed the safe and looked through the stuff hanging up, coming up with a nice shoulder harness and holster for the big Glock. Her next gift was a belt holster she said I could use for a backup when I needed one. She pulled 3 high-capacity magazines from a stack and said, "Let's get you changed into something decent. Then we'll go downstairs to the range and give this piece a test drive." Out in the office, we asked around and found that some of my clothes were in the locker room. One of the marshals took me to show me where. It took 10 minutes to dress and put on my new hardware. When I came out carrying my personal weapon, Bobby said, "Give it here. I'll keep it until you get a place to put it. We can leave it in the hotel." Give me the other Glock from the house because that's checked out for there." She put all of the hardware into her purse and we walked toward the door. We told Serena where we were going and headed toward the elevators. We walked into the range at 8 a.m. The range officer was having some coffee. "Hey, heard you two were doing some target shooting. Glad you're here to practice." Bobby said, "I just gave him a 40. Give him some range rounds and let him break this thing in. It might be stiff." She turned to me and said, "Tear it down and clean it real quick before you start. That'll probably help a little. You can clean it again when we're done." "Hey, Cap, give me some of those 40s too." I cleaned the piece and reassembled it quickly. If you know how to break down one Glock, you can do any of them. I loaded 3 magazines and put on the earmuffs. At the shooting position, I fired a full clip, hitting the target consistently, but all over the place. I dropped the magazine and took the gun to the range officer. "Do you have any other barrels for this thing? I think this one has a nick in it. The hits are all over the place." He opened a drawer while I was tearing the pistol down and handed me a new barrel. I slid it in place and locked it down. Back at the firing position, I slid a magazine in place after putting my earmuffs back on and began firing steadily at the target. 10 rounds right in the center. I dropped the empty magazine and slid another and putting 10 rounds in a really tight group in the head. This was a sweet gun, light, easy to shoot, and very accurate. I was amazed a bad barrel got through the inspectors. For the last magazine, I pushed the quick targets. These targets become lit at random, and you have to shoot each one within the 1 to 1.5 seconds that it is displayed. The faster you shoot, the faster they light up. I went through the quick targets, hitting them all without any problem. I dropped the clip, laid the gun on the position counter, and began picking up my brass. Bobby came to me and said, "Jesus, you have to teach me to do that. That's uncanny. Where did you learn to shoot like that?" When I was in the Marines, especially during my time in Iraq, there were periods when we didn't have much to do. Some guys like to watch TV all day, but I preferred reading and practicing my marksmanship. I would train for 4 to 6 hours a day. When you put in that kind of time, your accuracy naturally improves. These days, I don't get to shoot nearly as much, but I'm happy to pass on whatever tips I can. It makes sense now. You were incredibly accurate out there. I assumed you were exaggerating when you talked about making clean shots, but you weren't lucky. You were skilled. I had her get into position and asked which stance felt most comfortable. She replied that she wanted to try shooting one-handed like she'd seen me do. I told her accuracy is more important than style. Let me see how you usually shoot. She used a standard two-handed grip. I checked her form and adjusted her grip so she didn't have a finger pressing against the front of the weapon. Then I had her do a few dry fire drills, telling her to focus as if she were shooting live rounds. Instead of raising the weapon naturally and settling on the target, she tried to level it directly at the target and fired too quickly. I asked her to repeat it so I could see if the mistake was consistent. It was. I had her set the weapon down. Then I demonstrated how to bring the firearm up to the target without actually using it, just going through the motion. I walked through it a few times, then held up a finger and said, "Think of this as the trigger. Imagine gently squeezing it, not pulling." She mimicked the squeeze, though it still had a bit of a pull. I said you'll get better and more accurate once you master the squeeze. Now pick up the weapon and try again. Focus on the motion and the squeeze. This time she was focused. The gun stayed level, didn't jerk upward, and her shot was clean. We repeated the motion and squeeze several more times. "Okay," I said. "Let's try a live round now. Use the same movement we practiced and remember to focus on squeezing the trigger." Bobby was completely locked in. She raised the weapon slowly, took her time, and when she was satisfied, she squeezed the trigger. The shot hit dead center. "Wow, did you see that? A perfect hit. Let me try again," she said. We loaded another single round. She followed the steps again and fired. Another clean shot right in the middle of the target. "This is easy. Why didn't they teach me this way before? Let me try a full magazine." I handed her a full magazine and stepped back out of the position so she could do it all on her own. She fired 10 successive rounds dead center where she aimed. She dropped her magazine and reached for another. I opened the door and said, "Now all 10 in the head." I shut the door and watched as she put 10 holes in the head of the target in a nice tight group. She dropped the magazine and laid the piece down, smiling. She bent to begin picking up the brass. I opened the door and handing her another full magazine said, "Here, one more, but do it single-handed. Square away at the target, then raise your hand. Shooting exactly like you do if you had both hands on the weapon." She didn't look confident, so I told her that she was a natural and plenty strong enough to handle the 40 single-handed. She put the muffs back on and slid the magazine home and chambered around. She took a deep breath, raised the weapon, and began squeezing the trigger. She put 10 rounds in the target, 5 in the center, and 5 in the head. The grin on her face was awesome. She dropped the magazine and put the weapon down before she pulled open the door and hugged me to her. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In 10 minutes, you showed me how easy it is to shoot. I've got to practice more so it's natural, but I can do it now. I won't waste so many rounds in the field." We picked up her brass, cleaned both weapons, put a fresh magazine in them, and I holstered mine while she put hers in a belt clip under her jacket. As we left, the range officer said, "If you stay around here, I'd like you to give some lessons down here. I hear you have a technique to use when you're up against body armor. I'd like to see it. Word travels fast in a closed community like this. I smiled and nodded, not wanting to commit to anything for a while. We arrived upstairs at precisely 9 o'clock. Serena said our guests were on their way and called to make sure we were on our knees when they got here. Howard heard what she said and cautioned. Remember, these guys do my proficiency report. Be nice. You, Johnson, and you, Bobby, go find an empty desk and look busy. I'll call you when they want to talk to you. Bobby and I took adjoining desks, and since the PCs were on, we both logged on to the department website. We went through the news about our local fun, noting that the latest episode had not made the site yet. Next, we both logged on to the local news channel site to see live footage of the scene still busy out in Carrollwood. The guys were really playing it up. The street had chalk mark outlines where the bodies had lay. There were little evidence markers everywhere. There actually couldn't have been that much evidence, not that many rounds were fired. They even had 3 interviews, one with a deputy marshal, one with a bureau guy, and one with a lieutenant with the sheriff's department. Everyone was getting into the act. The news lady, who usually had a smile, had this serious look on her face, saying, "Now the hoodlums in the area know that the officials would prefer not to take prisoners." Howard called me at that exact instant. "Johnson, come in. Bobby, you better come in, too." I went into the office and was introduced to a John Scott. The man was about 50 with gray hair cut in a nice flat top. He held himself erect and had a good military bearing. I came in and stood at attention. He recognized the stance and said at ease, "Charlie Johnson, huh? A date of being sworn in last week. It has here you were sworn in to help in your protection as a person in federal protective custody. So you're the one who started the employment office fiasco, huh?" I'm sure the guy knew what my tiny file said by heart, but he wanted to be dramatic. "I'm told that you have volunteered for a couple of unusual assignments and have performed meritoriously. Do you enjoy killing?" "Uh-huh. The shock value." "No, sir. I defend with deadly force, not with enthusiasm, but focus on my team's safety." His eyes opened wide and he said, "Everyone out of here. Everyone except you, Johnson." Now everyone left Howard's office with flat top and me still standing. When the door closed, he reached out his hand and said quietly, "Simperify." I nodded but added equally as softly. He said, "How long in special forces?" 7 years, sir." "I'm not a sir, neither are you. How long have you been out?" "You know the answer to that. It's in my file. You're right, I do. Sorry about your leg. Would you have stayed?" "Yes, are you going to stay in the Marshal Service?" "I don't know yet. It depends on what is decided and if I live that long. I want you and you'll live. We're too damn tough to be done in by a bunch of money-grubbing cutthroats." The man paused, looking at me as if trying to see inside my head. "One word of caution, Johnson. Try not to kill everybody. I hear you had an incident this morning and allowed a third of the attackers to live. Good move. The service frowns on too many kills. As it is, you're going to have to see a shrink to make sure you're stable. Do you still get the shakes?" "Not usually." "Good. That means you think clearly under pressure. I'm going to call the folks back in. They think I'm dressing you down for being so accurate with a gun. I know that it is training and that you are just protecting your unit. Please remain a deputy marshal. You will have a great future with us if you do," he said. "Sid." Before he went to the door to call everyone back in. When everyone was back in, he asked Serena, who had joined us, "How come you swore Mr. Johnson in as a regular deputy marshal and issued him an ID with a full security clearance?" Serena said, "I checked his military records with the Secret Service. His clearance is still current and is higher than what is required for the service. Mr. Johnson exhibited the values we want in the service, and if he were a full deputy marshal, I felt I could get him to stay with us." Good thinking. He took a deep breath. "Howard has briefed us, and now we are going to interview the 2 men that were just brought in. We will not use your famous window technique because I want the bulletproof glass between the other buildings and me. I don't think we've ever lost a prisoner from being shot in an interview room before. There are a lot of firsts with this case." He turned to me and said, "In front of everyone here, including the chief of personnel of the Marshal Service, I'm promoting you, Johnson, to sergeant with the notation of acting field lieutenant. Your pay will reflect the higher grade. Your promotion is not for downing so many perks. It's because of your military background. I can't have a lieutenant being commanded by a lieutenant. So, Howard, you are hereby promoted to full commander. Not major, but full commander. Serena, please make these new promotions effective as of 8 o'clock this morning. Now, if any of you have something to ask or say, do it now as we have work to do. I stood, but Howard motioned for Bobby, me, and Serena to stay. The others left the office, shutting the door behind them as they headed for the interview rooms. What did you say to that man? He didn't seem to be tearing into you, Howard said. Sorry about my language, ladies. I said the only thing that made sense. He's also a Marine. He was in Special Forces, too. He gets it. What does he understand? Howard asked. He understands that I don't take pleasure in killing, but I will defend my unit. Bobby added, That's similar to what you said before he sent us out. Is that something they teach you in Special Forces training? That is the second goal of a Marine on every mission. Our primary goal is to execute whatever the order is, but to always protect our unit. I was just protecting our unit. Howard said, Perhaps we should send all our men through Special Forces urban combat training. But then DC would start calling this the Wild West office. He turned to me and said, Thanks, Chad. Full commander is a very high honor. The man who was just in here is not a full commander. He is a lowly major. This was a special promotion, and you are to blame. I blame you because the rank is too high for Tampa. They'll move me, and I don't want to move. I wonder if my wife will like DC or Chicago. I doubt it. Bobby said, Maybe the guy out west is retiring. You might be in line for that job. We'll see. I want you two to go get some clothes for Bobby, enough for a week. Come back, check in the hotel, and come back to the office. An acting lieutenant has some extra responsibilities. You're in charge of showing him, Bobby. Does that mean what I think it means? Serena, make Bobby's promotion permanent as of this morning. And let's make sure the payroll gets really screwed up because I wish to address you as Sergeant from now on. Now, just like the captain on Star Trek says, make it so. Now get all of you and be careful out there. You are to have a lead in a chase. Make sure our cars are armored like the expedition just in case. The three of us left the office with eating grins. Apparently the big shots had told everyone of the promotions they had handed out and gave me another hand. I just grinned and headed for the door, picking up my jeans and t-shirt on the way. 4 guys followed us out the door. Bobby briefed the 4 on the way how we would go out to the house and made sure they had the max authorized ammo with them. The one guy said, We've checked out enough hardware to start our own regime. We should be okay. We could almost use a 3rd guy in each car for eyes. Bobby stopped before we got to the elevators. Hey, it's not a busy duty day. I looked at the roster. Let's get 2 more men just for fun. We should get to the hotel in time for a nice lunch. Come on. We went back and asked Serena for a couple more men. She checked the roster of available guys in page 3. They happily came running. The alternative was getting stuck on an air marshal assignment that had them overnighting somewhere. Older, semi-retired guys that missed a lot of work handled a lot of the air marshal jobs. The trip out to the house was event-free. One of the reasons was probably so many county sheriff's cars parked all over the neighborhood in the guise of speed traps. Bobby even said, Perhaps we should reconsider and just stay here. As we stopped to raise the garage door, the extra man riding with us said, If they want you in the hotel, go. That place is easier to protect and closer to help. I said, I will miss the pool, though. The guy looked at me asking, Didn't you use the roof pool? It's exclusively for the penthouses. They even have a jacuzzi and small sound up there. I didn't know. And I guess they thought that I didn't swim with my bad leg. Heck, swimming is better for me than that damn treadmill. The marshal said, I'll tell all the guys to clear the pool area when they come on duty. That way, you can just go up there. Actually, the only way up there is on the penthouse elevator, or the stairs. There is a maintenance elevator for both the penthouse and the roof, but that's easily locked out. We even have a control panel with a visual of the elevator plus a video panel. Now they installed it yesterday. The duty guy can see the lobby, the approach of each elevator inside each one, plus the door area for the stairwell on each floor below. Any movement on the penthouse elevator or any of the stairwells above the third floor activates an alarm. It's pretty cool and makes for a lot better security. I thought of Bobby's house and said, we should ask for an auxiliary panel like you have, Bobby, so when the duty guy is eating, he can have the same view. The guy said, it's done. We don't eat with many protective custody people, but since folks like yourself and a lot of dignitaries from the service stay there, they put a false wall up with an entire array. We don't leave them on, though. They only come on upon demand. As she was driving, Bobby said, we'll probably have them on all the time. I don't think I'll ever be as uptight as I've been. This has been intense. I can't believe there's been so many attacks. I saw the investigation notes from the Bureau. This employment fraud thing is just so huge. There are mob types all over the states that are upset over losing the easy money they were getting. We're putting a big dent in their income. Plus, we've been busting fake training centers in almost every state. A couple of them were even being used as narcotic drops. Your tax money at work. We provide the office space where they collect free money, divide up the dope, and distribute it to their carriers. Amazing that one girl not being at work regularly could cause this whole thing to collapse, I said, shaking my head. If the director had hired me as his assistant, no one would ever know. He could have corrected the problem with the girl and the fraud would have continued. The duty guys at the house were using the family room and facilities. Hey, one of them said, this is good duty. These monitors are great. Anything gets close and a buzzer or beeper goes off. Even a stray dog set the thing off. I love the motion detector on those roof cameras. That makes the distant perimeter easy to watch. The other man there said, if there is anything you don't want moved, let me know now because this house is going to be empty by tomorrow. Your new place is being prepared right now, and they will move you en masse tomorrow. A group from the Atlanta office will be here to do the move. Bobby asked, do you have a floor plan for the new place yet? The marshal opened a briefcase and gave Bobby a small floor plan so she could familiarize herself with it. Bobby commented, not much different except it's bigger and there's more open space around it. I like the idea that there are even quarters for duty guys. No more going to the 7-Eleven for potty breaks either. We either use a jug or have a replacement crew come for relief. That was a real freaky thing that happened this morning, the deputy said before he turned to me. How did you figure it wasn't us this morning anyway? I heard you were the one pulling the alarm. All of our vehicles and the bureaus have plates on the front of them. That one didn't. Oh, not all of them do. Our surveillance cars don't. But they are more common looking anyway, like that Mustang you're driving. Or at least we're driving. Anyway, that was good thinking and a good eye. Even if it had been a totally unmarked car and you didn't know it, you did right to confront it. There wouldn't have been any harm done. Bobby came out with 2 big suitcases and said, that will take me through a week or so. I suppose I'll be spending more time in the office than usual, so that requires better clothes. She went back to the bedroom and came back out with 3 aluminum cases. Let's pack up some hardware to carry along with us. Get the MP5 you have in the truck and the one behind the fridge. We broke down the 2 rifles and put them in the cases with 6 extra full magazines each. In the third case, she put the Glock plus another, and my 9mm Min, along with all my extra magazines and 6 more. Bobby looked up and said, that should take care of us. I like the idea of having a rifle in the truck with someone that can use it. I have a modification I want on the truck too. I want a sunroof with a flip-up Kevlar shield in all directions. Chad could have covered that car easily without leaning out the door or window. Hell, they've made that truck damn near bomb-proof. Might as well make it into a fighting vehicle as well. We loaded up the Expedition, radioed the office and the car out on the street that we were coming, and opened the door. The trip back was as uneventful as the trip in. Instead of parking in the garage, we went to the valet entrance and put our luggage on a cart. One of the agents took the Expedition while we went straight to the penthouse elevator. I looked at the control panel as we were riding up and noticed one other button that had an R on it. I wanted to check out the roof. That might be a nice place to get some sun. We checked in with the duty guy and went into the penthouse. We carried Bobby's bags to the second bedroom. I went into the other bedroom and there were all my clothes hung in the closet, cleaned and pressed. I thought that it will be nice to have some clothes again. Too bad I lost the other suit. I had really liked it. Oh well, I knew where to get more. The agent who took the car came in along with the other 6 that had accompanied us. I looked at the menu and gave it to them. They called the duty guy and asked him what he wanted. We decided on some of the hotel's monster hamburgers and chili. The order was made and I checked to make sure the fridge was full of soda. It was along with several bottles of wine that weren't there before. I pushed the button that controlled the panel over the bar. There were twice as many bottles now and all of them were full. I guess they thought I might be a heavy drinker. The duty guy commented, "When we said we were going to rent this penthouse permanently and rent the others for at least a month, they filled the place up. Our business is important to them, especially in the slack times. We're using all 4 penthouses right now to house the dignitaries that are here." I spoke up. I only saw the 2. "Who else is here?" The duty marshal answered, "There are 6 others. 2 more from the service that are out in the field and 4 from the bureau. This is a big deal we're working on. So far, we've arrested over a dozen involved in this thing. It looks like Papa Nardelli was the king in this area. It's just taking a while to find all of the offices involved. The DC people have all the addresses because they have been paying the rent. We're just raiding each one and collecting whoever is in them. We are also staking them out and pulling in anyone that comes in. We just take them all and sort them out later. We ate while checking out the new video wall. They had done a great job blending it into the decor of the penthouse. If it were rented out to a regular civilian, they would never know it was there, so the services money was well spent. Howard came into the room saying, "How are the new sergeants doing? Did everything go okay?" I guess it did. I didn't hear anything. Bobby and I both nodded. "You 2 will stay here at least a week. Bobby, your new place will be ready the day after tomorrow, but you're detailed to be Chad's personal duty person for a while. You don't mind, do you?" Bobby grinned and shook her head, saying, "Hell no. Watching this guy is pure luxury with a place like this." Howard cautioned, "Well, don't get too complacent. You know, they blew the elevator here already, and I'm sure someone will try something at least once. We think the place is pretty tight, but some of these guys that are coming at us are good. They are smart, too. So just be careful and be watchful. You've been trained for this. Use that training." He turned to me. "I have the entire training series on protection for witnesses and relocated personnel coming. I want Bobby to review it and for you to do the entire course. Use the PC here and log into our site. Bobby has the encryption key. So when you finish each module, take the online test. The guys will tell you each major division class you means an increase in your base pay. With your extra time, you should be able to build your income pretty well. You've used your time well so far. Keep it up. Even if you pull a rat on us and go to the bureau, these are cross modules, so you'll get top pay over there as well. Somehow, I have the feeling we're going to have a hard time keeping you here. The boss fell in love with you this morning. You sure he's not queer for you?" That got a laugh from everyone tonight. He's hosting a dinner for you and Bobby, Serena, and I have been invited as well. I'm picking up my wife for this, so it's a major occasion. We're a good suit. Oh yeah, we have replaced your suit with another similar to it. Man, that thing was expensive. You sure have expensive taste. I grinned. Howard, as soon as we can, I'll take you to the place where I bought the suit. I got it for 20% of normal retail. I didn't even use up the entire clothing allowance I got from the employment agency. Considering the stuff you're wearing, I'll go with you. Who turned you onto the place? I'm surprised you don't know. Our dear friend M. White. Her husband Reggie and Ms. White helped me pick out everything. When I go back to get more, I'm going to call her. The place is full of unsavory characters, but it is really the place to shop for good men's stuff. I'll make sure all the guys know about the place. I'll even make sure that they go in not packing. So it's a more pleasant trip. I think the place is used to having guys carrying. I'd bet over half of the people shopping there were packing. Reggie had his, and when he tried his coat on, the tailor didn't even flinch. When he asked me if I usually wore a shoulder holster, Reggie told him, and that it would be on my left. That's why my coats don't bulge or look misformed. Howard added, I guess it would be a good place for all of us to shop. We'll have the best tailored office in the district. Anyway, you 2 kick back this afternoon. You have at least 4 days coming for incidents. You know, the service makes you take a day off after each incident. You had 3 yesterday and 1 this morning. When you need one of these, you can take them. I'm going to set up the shrink to come here instead of you going to her when she does her interview. Be kind. She's kind of a babe in the woods. I don't think she understands the real world is a little more violent than she thinks. Soon it was just Bobby and I. I suggested, let's go up on the roof and take a look at this pool they have. Since it's high, it might not be warm unless it's heated. We went to the duty guy, picked up the radio we were supposed to have in the penthouse, and walked up the steps to the roof. The door had an alarm on it that said that it would alert the world if we went through it. So we went back down to the duty guy. He laughed and said, "See this switch? If I turn it off, there is no alarm. If I turn it on, the world, as you know, it comes to an end. The elevator can't go there either unless I push this one-time button. Besides, see these?" He pointed to 3 monitors. That's the roof. When you're up there, if you want privacy, tell me and we'll shut them off. I can imagine that I'd rather skinny dip than use a suit. Bobby laughed. You've caught me too many times at home, haven't you? You know that's almost the only way I swim. Chad don't mind, and he's too much. A gentleman to be orrery. You're a better man than I would be. The only reason I'd be good is I got a wife that does not share. She would alter my genetics real quick, if you know what I mean. Bobby and I climbed the steps again and looked around. We sat in the chairs to check the sight lines. There were none while sitting or if we were in the pool or jacuzzi that would allow anyone, even with a very long-range sniper weapon, to get a shot at us. I thought it would be good to get some binoculars or telescope to look around. I thought for a second, then said, I'll be right back. I went down the stairs to the duty guy and asked to use his rifle for a few minutes. What for? You going to shoot something? No, not going to shoot anything. I want to use the scope. I know you have these zeroed in at 400 yards, so I want to scan the sight lines up there to see if anything is compromised. Good thinking. He pointed to a knob on the side of the scope. Each click is 1/10 of a click. You know, a kilometer. Go through up to a full click. I don't think there are too many bad guys out there that are proficient over that. As I was going back upstairs, I thought 1,000 meters is what? A little over 1,000 yard. The longest shot I heard about was estimated 1,400 on a perfectly calm day. I'll check to a click. That ought to be enough. Bobby laughed when I showed up with the rifle. You don't miss much. They keep that rifle kind of hidden. It probably doesn't have much value at that duty station, but it is part of the equipment for any station. I checked the sight lines all around. There was the bank building nearby, almost as tall as this one, but even standing up near the pool, you couldn't see the top of it. Nope. The only way to access or see us up here is by helicopter. We should be fine. I wonder if there's a NOTM notice to airmen filed for downtown Tampa right now. If there is, only military aircraft or law enforcement on a mission would be allowed. Curious, I walked to the side of the building near the federal building and looked at its rooftop. Wow, they had 4 heliports up there and even 1 helicopter with federal markings. If we decided to take a swim, someone in the air might get an unexpected view. Aviators often see a lot from above. We sat on the roof enjoying a few minutes of sunlight before deciding to head back downstairs. Bobby said, let's go across the street and check out the modules the boss wants us to review, and we both need to go over the rank modules. You'll need to go through ours plus your temporary field rank as lieutenant. Between you and me, Bobby, I said, I still follow your directions. You know the rules. I'm not proficient yet. You know combat, though, Bobby said with a serious look on her face. I'll follow you any time when we're under attack. You proved yourself more than once already. I looked up at her and said, you know, I think we should probably take a short nap before we do any studying. We would be a lot more alert if we were to do that. Oh, no, you don't. I know that. Look, you don't have napping on your mind at all, except what you're thinking of would definitely make me sleepy. I grinned. Well, would relax us. Wait, Bobby admonished. Let's see what the day brings. Fooling around like that makes me too lethargic. Considering our tenuous situation, we might want to be more alert. Look what happened the last time. We were almost having a good time. We told the duty guy what we were going to do, and he said, just tell me what you want. One of the guys will bring it over. The boss wants you two wrapped up tight today. He thinks there are people just waiting to catch us sleeping. We have some body-armored look-alikes for you too, going back and forth fairly often as it is. I laughed. Where did you find a 7-foot Amazon and a we didn't? We have a behemoth from Orlando. You know him, Bobby, the ex-wrestler. He's got a wig and is wearing a skirt. The only thing he's bitching about is your shoes, and that he had to shave his legs. I think the guy likes being dressed up for you, Chad. We're using that new college kid we just put on. He had a hard time limping, so how Howard whacked him with a cane like yours. He's limping pretty good now and needs the cane. Bobby and I cracked up, but we both wanted to see the pair so we could razz them about the duty another time. Our duty guy said, next time they come up, I'll call you. They have to start from up here and come back up when they come back. So if someone is watching, they think they started from your penthouse. That's why we have all of the penthouses right now. The two of them stay on the floor below until this is over. They just come up here before they go and go back down after they get back. They are doing what you're going to do and what Chad did last weekend. Watch training videos. Bobby said, I'll call Serena so she can check them out, as 2 of the modules have to be signed out by rank. Serena can check out anything. We went back into the penthouse and I said, you know what? Since we're not on assignment, I'm going to have a beer. I missed one yesterday that I was planning on having one, just like the drink I was planning on yesterday evening. Bobby said, giving me a hug. Give me one too, but don't drink too much. You might have to be alert for what I have in mind for you later. Promises, promises, I said as I pulled 2 bottles from the fridge. There's probably some idiot with a plan to interrupt us later anyway. I'll kill him, Bobby said pretty seriously. I think I believed her. About 10 minutes after Bobby called Serena, a huge, almost a replica of Bobby, and smaller bad copy of me came in the door carrying a box of videos. We chatted a couple of minutes before the guy imitating me asked me to walk across the room in front of him so he could watch me. I walked back and forth a couple of times, and he said, your knee doesn't bend easily and your ankle doesn't at all. I'll tape up my ankle so it won't bend and put on a tight elastic brace on the knee that won't let me bend it easily. That'll make me limp a lot more like you. I said to the huge wrestler, you're kind of cute, but it ruins it that I know you're a guy. Your chest isn't as nice looking as Bob's. You need more padding, cutie. I ducked as he swung at me laughing. You better watch out. You know, us wrestlers all go both ways, don't Chai? We like cute little guys like you. We all got a laugh, but his partner got a real red face. Wonder if ex-wrestlers and young college boys still go both ways. They left and Bobby was holding her hand over her mouth. When she started choking, I patted her on the back until she could control herself. It's all over the office over there. Bronson, the ex-wrestler, does go both ways, admittedly. Did you see the red face on that kid? I'll bet they are enjoying this hotel duty. They only make about 4 trips a day across the street, and the rest of the time they have to stick to their room. Fun time in the Brokeback Hotel. Bad, Bobby. Real bad. You should be ashamed of yourself. Can't help it, Bobby said, still laughing. You teased the big guy and his eyes got big thinking you were coming on to him. Then he teased back and his partner blushed. It is funny, but don't ever say anything. People do what people do. We spent the rest of the afternoon watching rank videos. We needed to pass these within 30 days of our promotions. We watched both together, but I was the only one that took the lieutenant exam. It's cool the way the site gives you the grades back immediately. You're graded on correct answers, but additionally graded on the time it takes to complete the exam. Bobby explained that if it takes you a long time, then the computer assumes you were looking up each of the answers. Therefore, even though you might have answered all the questions correctly, you might still fail. Bobby and I both received 100% on the sergeant's exam, and I received the same on the lieutenant's. When that was done, Bobby said, let's get cleaned up for dinner. It'll be in about an hour and a half. They might call us early for a cocktail or a visit. Go tell the duty guy and get into the shower. I went out to the duty marshal, who was a different one, and he nodded. Back in the penthouse, I went to my room, stripped, and hopped into the bathroom. Bobby was standing in the shower waiting for me. The shower was one of those big ones with 2 nozzles about waist high and 3 overhead. There was instant hot water, so we turned them on, adjusted the temperature, and proceeded to wash each other's hair and each other. Since the shower was so stimulating, Bobby ended up standing with her legs spread, bent over, holding the wall with me behind her, making like I was a brawn rider balancing on one foot. Good stuff. We were both smiling by the time we cleaned off and dried each other. I told Bobby she didn't look too lethargic. Bobby disappeared into her room while I put myself together. I put on a nice dark suit with a colored shirt and tie combination that Miss White had picked out. I looked pretty good, if I do say so myself. I went out to the living room to find Bobby coming from her room. I whistled. Wow, you look gorgeous. Jesus, you look good. She pirouetted for me asking, You like? I like a lot. A whole lot. You smell good too. I like that perfume. This is something Danny bought for me for Christmas a lot of years ago. You're the first guy I've worn perfume for, and I thought Danny would want you to smell it. We both were a little watery-eyed, thinking of the donor of her perfume. How about a drink? We might want to have a stiff one, so we're relaxed with the big shots. Bobby said, Good idea. Make us both a tall gin martini. That won't make our breath weak, and I love gin. Do they have beef feeder? I looked to see what was there. They have some British gin in a pretty bottle called Boodles and Tanker. She smelled the British Boodles and nodded. I put some icing glasses and filled them with gin. I started to put vermouth in the drinks, but Bobby said, I like mine as dry as it can get. You thought of the vermouth? That was almost not dry enough. The martinis had quite a kick. I checked the bottle to find it was 90 proof instead of the usual 40 proof of most gins. Strong stuff to be drinking about 4 ounces each. About the time we were halfway through our drinks. There was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole before I answered it. Howard was waiting to get in. Quick, get me something. Preferably a gin martini before we have dinner. Today has been Tension City. Before I could get his drink poured, there was another knock on the door. Bobby let Serena in. Serena gasped. Quick, get me something to drink. Anything. I gave Howard a stiff one, but gave Serena a much smaller one as she isn't that big, and this stuff was potent. Howard looked at the size of our glasses. Are you two drinking that much Boodles? When I nodded, I commented, I didn't know it was so strong until after I poured. I can't drink all of mine. Perhaps I'll finish it later. Bobby handed me hers and said, Put mine in the freezer, too. That should keep the ice cubes frozen. Howard said, Just be yourselves. These guys haven't really been a pain in the butt, but they're still from D.C. And you know what home office people are like. The upper echelon guys don't always relate to field people. We deal with and they just send out the toilet paper. We all laughed at Howard's joke. He put his drink down and said, Let's go downstairs. We have a private dining room. He patted my chest and said, First, go put your clothes on. I understood and headed to the bedroom for the 40 and my new shoulder harness. Bobby headed for hers also. I checked the magazine and realized that it really wasn't full. I checked to see how many rounds were in it. 10, I put them back and looking at the markings on the magazine, and it said maximum 15 rounds. I pulled the box of extra ammo out and put 5 more rounds in the magazine, and 5 more in the extra 2 magazines I stored in my coat pockets. Wonder why no one told me about more than the usual 12 or 13 for a Glock. Back in the living room, I asked Bobby, How come you didn't tell me this had a 15-round magazine? I forgot. Yours is a full-size Glock 22, and mine is a 23. I used to carry the 27 that only carries 9 rounds. I prefer the compact, because I usually have to carry it in my purse if I wear a dress. I only put 10 rounds in this one, as someone said that if you carry a magazine full for too long, the spring wears out and the gun might jam. If you were a homeowner keeping a piece at your bedside, you would be right. But we're combat troops. We throw these magazines away every year or have them refitted with new springs. I looked at Howard to see if I was right. Or at least that's what the military does. We are supposed to do that. But you know, I never carry a full magazine either, Howard said. I also carry a compact because it is lighter. Well, I'd rather have the 15 rounds and one in the chamber. Thank you very much. That's 5 more rounds in a tight spot. Hell, I even ran out of the 30 rounds on the MP5 today. I heard there is a new 40-round magazine. We should look into those. Okay. Wild Bill, this is really an unusual time. There's not as much action in the entire Marshal Service in a year as you've had in a week. The next thing you know, you'll be carrying extra magazines around? I blushed really bad. You don't, do you? Howard asked. I reached into my coat pockets and sheepishly pulled out a magazine from each pocket. You're a good scout, Chad. Actually, considering what you've been through, I don't blame you. Most of us don't carry extra magazines unless we're going on specific duty. You do what you're comfortable with. We went downstairs to a nice private banquet room. The big cheese, John Scott himself, greeted us. He introduced us to the other DC people. The personnel guy said to Bobby and me, I see you both finished your sergeant's exam and you finished your lieutenant's with hundreds all around. It's good to see sharp people out in the field. Howard was eavesdropping and smiled happily. Serena caught our eyes and winked at us. A surprise guest with us was Ms. White and Reggie. Ms. White was sitting next to Howard and his wife, with Reggie next to May. When we were seated at the table, Deputy Marshal Scott had me sit at his right with Howard on his left. Bobby sat next to me with Serena sitting next to her. Several of our senior guys were here along with a bunch of bureau people, including the agent in charge. We all had drinks. I noticed John Scott had scotch and water, so it was only coincidence that I had asked for that before he ordered his. He had corrected my order to be some expensive single malt stuff and without water. It was too expensive for my blood, but really good. The dinner was prime rib and not nearly as good as Reggie's. I wondered what Reggie thought of the quality being served. Throughout the meal, the conversation was kept very light. When Marshal Scott asked me how I afforded such expensive clothing, I gave him the same story I had given Howard. Mr. Scott looked down at Ms. White and said, You have impeccable taste. Thank you for directing our young man in his clothing selection. You're giving him some good habits. Ms. White thanked him and said, It was a pleasure. I felt I should help him spend his special clothing allowance properly, and I wanted him to make a good public relations impression on our clients and prospective employers. Reggie was the one that already knew where to shop, though. He just drags me there because I can put what should be worn together for him. You did a great job for Mr. Johnson. He's the best-dressed marshal in the service. After the very nice meal, John stood and spoke to the group. First of all, Howard, please stand. The U.S. Marshal Service has many men that do great things and perform beyond expectations every day. Some perform that way for extended periods of time. Howard Smith has performed that way every day since he was sworn in so long ago for his contribution to the service and this office. Howard is promoted to full commander within the U.S. Marshal Service. There was applause all around. I want you all to know that this lady next to Mrs. Smith was instrumental in hiring Deputy Marshal Johnson. We all know how lucky we've been to have him over this past week. Chad, Bobby, Serena. Would you three stand? The three of us stood up, wondering what was coming. Mr. Scott handed Howard something and said, For having the ability to act under pressure and under fire in a manner that expresses the traits of a heroic deputy marshal, Serena, the service presents you with the Legion of Merit Award for Courage. You are the first person within a clerical position to ever receive this award, as well as the first within clerical to be promoted to sergeant. We all applauded Serena as Howard pinned the medal to her suit coat. Marshal Scott handed Howard something again, then began for her quick thinking, courage, and heroism under fire. I award you, Bobby, with this Medal of Valor for performance of duty beyond expectations. Congratulations, Sergeant. Bobby was really smiling. This was the same medal her Danny had been awarded posthumously. Marshal Scott turned to me and said, Be at attention. Then very softly he said, Marine Charlie Johnson, for courage, heroism, and the performance in protecting your unit, you are awarded this Medal of Valor. He pinned the medal on me. For your performance so far beyond what could be expected of you as a marshal, and that exemplifies the Marine Corps that you are still a part of, you are awarded this Silver Star. Congratulations, Sergeant Johnson. Sympathy. As I answered, several men around the table enthusiastically gave that same salute. Marshal Scott stepped back and saluted. I couldn't help it. I returned the salute. He smiled at me and said, Be at ease. Then vigorously shook my hand. As the formal ceremony broke up, several men came forward to congratulate me, almost all saying, We should have known. Only a Marine Special Forces, too. There was a long meet and greet with some having another drink, but Serena, Bobby, and I didn't partake. When it was time, Howard radioed a duty person to take us back upstairs. John Scott said he would see us in the morning. Serena said she was coming with us and we three left to go upstairs. Before entering the lobby, it was thoroughly checked with our guys, staying in constant contact with the other duty people. Once we entered the elevator, we relaxed as it was programmed to only go to our floor. When it hit the third floor and stopped, there were 4 .40 caliber Glocks pointing at a bellhop with a cart. He almost fainted. The duty guy said, "I forgot about the room service kitchen." "Come on, we won't hurt." The man wearily pushed the cart into the elevator, and we proceeded to the top floor. The duty guy met us laughing as he had seen the confrontation with the bellhop. "My bad. I should have radioed you that I had ordered. Who would have guessed he was coming up at that exact same time?" "Sorry, guy." The bellhop wasn't too amused, but said, "That was the scariest thing I've ever seen. Those barrels are huge when they're pointing at you that close." As the three of us were going in the room, Serena said, "I'm staying tonight. We're going to bed early, so good night." The duty guy was more interested in his food than us at that point and waved goodnight. We locked the double door and put the stops down. Bobby said, "I saw some My Time mix." "Let's have one of those when we've changed. Let's see where were we the last time we were interrupted." Serena said, "We were relaxing in the jacuzzi." Bobby went over to the patio door and opened it. She flipped the switch and we heard the blower motor of the jacuzzi out on the patio start up last one and has to fix the Mai Tais. The two ladies raced toward Bobby's room while I hobbled to mine. I took my clothes off and hung them up, preserving the creases and press.